Welcome to the channel. If you're into strange, little-known tales from the medieval world, whether they're fascinating, eerie, or surprisingly boring, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our daily videos. And if you've got ideas for weird or interesting medieval topics, drop them in the comments below. I read every one, and I'd love to turn your suggestion into a future video. Now, let's step into a world of stories that might seem sleepy at first glance, but actually reveal some of the most intriguing details about a long-lost era.
Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1938 in the city of Krakow, Poland. Your name is Hannah Goldstein and you're 11 years old. The morning sunlight filters through the lace curtains your mother hung last spring, casting delicate patterns across your worn wooden floor. The smell of fresh bread drifts up from the bakery downstairs, mingling with the familiar scent of Papa's pipe tobacco. Outside, you can hear the clip-clop of horses pulling carts along the cobblestone streets and the distant chatter of neighbours greeting each other as they start their day. You stretch your arms above your head, feeling the soft cotton of your nightgown against your skin. It's a peaceful moment, one of those ordinary mornings that feels like it could last forever. But the year is 1938, and though you don't know it yet, everything is about to change. Your family has lived in Krakow for generations. Papa owns a small bookshop that smells of paper and ink and possibility. Mama teaches piano to the neighborhood children. Your older brother David is studying to become a doctor. Your little sister Sarah is only 6 and spends her days collecting pretty stones and drawing pictures of birds. You're a family like any other. You laugh together, argue sometimes, and sit down for Shabbat dinner every Friday night. But lately, there's been a tension in the air, a heaviness in the adults' voices when they speak in hushed tones after you've gone to bed. You've noticed how Papa frowns when he reads the newspaper, how Mama's smile sometimes doesn't reach her eyes. The good news is that you have a wonderful life with people who love you. The bad news is that dark clouds are gathering on the horizon, and they're moving closer every day. As you get dressed for school, pulling on your favorite blue dress and carefully braiding your dark hair, you hear Papa and Mama talking in the kitchen. Their voices are low, concerned. "Did you hear about the Kleins?" Mama asks. "They've decided to leave for America next month." "Another family gone," Papa sighs. "But perhaps they're making the wise choice." You don't understand what they're talking about, not really. You know that some Jewish families have been leaving Europe, heading to places like America, Palestine, or England. But why would anyone want to leave their home? Your life is here, your friends, your school, the tree in the park that you've claimed as your special reading spot. As you enter the kitchen, the conversation stops abruptly. Mama smooths her apron and gives you a bright smile that doesn't quite match the worry in her eyes. "Good morning, my sunshine," she says, placing a bowl of porridge in front of you. "Did you sleep well?" You nod, your mouth already full of the warm, sweet porridge topped with a sprinkle of cinnamon, a luxury that will soon become a distant memory. "After school today, I need you to help me in the shop," Papa says, folding his newspaper. "David will be studying late at the university." You're excited about this. You love spending time among the books, helping customers find just the right story, the neat way Papa lets you arrange the new arrivals on the display table. You don't notice how he glances out the window, checking the street before he leaves, or how he tucks a small family photograph into his breast pocket, something he's never done before. School that day is normal, or what passes for normal these days. Your teacher, Miss Nowak, seems distracted, and one of your classmates, Lena, tells you that her family is moving to England next week. When you ask why, she just shrugs and says, "My papa says it's not safe here anymore." Not safe? The idea seems ridiculous. This is your home. How could it not be safe? But on your way home, you notice something that makes your stomach tighten with unease. Someone has painted a crude Star of David on the door of Mr. Abramovich's tailor shop, with ugly words underneath that you pretend not to understand. Yesterday, the paint wasn't there. Today, it glares out at the street, yellow and hateful. When you reach Papa's bookshop, you find him speaking with Mr. Rosenberg from next door. They stop talking when you enter, but not before you hear Mr. Rosenberg say, "The rumors from Germany are getting worse." Go sort the new shipment of books in the back, Papa tells you with a strained smile. I'll be there to help in a moment. In the small storeroom, surrounded by the comforting smell of new books, you run your fingers along the spines, reading titles about faraway places and different times. There's a whole world contained within these pages, worlds safer than the one that seems to be shifting beneath your feet. Later that evening, after a quiet dinner where even Sarah senses something is wrong and doesn't chatter as usual, you overhear your parents and David talking in the sitting room. We should leave while we still can, David insists, his voice urgent. The universities in England or America would accept me. We could start over and abandon everything we've built. Papa sounds tired. This is our home, David. Things will settle down. They always do. Not this time. Your brother's voice is tight with emotion. You've heard what's happening in Germany, the Nuremberg laws, the violence, Jews being stripped of their citizenship, and now Austria has been annexed. Don't you see the pattern? Mama's voice is soft but firm. Your father has applied for visas just in case, but these things take time, and money we don't have much of. You shouldn't be listening, you know that, but you can't make yourself walk away. There's something important happening, something that concerns you, even if the adults are trying to shield you from it. Hannah, what are you doing up? Sarah's small voice makes you jump. She stands in the hallway in her white nightgown, her dark curls tousled from sleep, clutching her favourite stuffed bear. Nothing, you whisper, taking her hand. Let's get you back to bed. As you tuck Sarah in, she asks in a drowsy voice, Are we going on a trip? What makes you ask that? I heard Mama packing things in a suitcase when she thought I was napping. You smooth her hair back from her forehead, trying to keep your voice light. I don't know, little bird. Maybe a short trip. Now go to sleep. But as you return to your own room, a sense of unease follows you. The world outside your window suddenly seems less familiar, as if the city you've known all your life is transforming into something unknown while you sleep. In the weeks that follow, things begin to change more rapidly. Papa's bookshop sees fewer customers. Some of your classmates stop coming to school. There are more whispered conversations, more worried glances. And then, on September 1st, 1939, everything changes. You wake to the sound of distant explosions and the wail of air raid sirens. Mama rushes into your room, her face pale. Quickly, get dressed, practical clothes, one small bag of essentials, like we practiced. Your hands shake as you pull on layers of clothing. It's still summer, but Mama insisted you wear your warmest things and stuff a few treasured items into a small rucksack. Your journal, a photograph of your family, the small silver necklace Grandmother gave you before she died. In the kitchen, Papa is listening to the radio, his face grim. The announcer's voice crackles through the static. German forces have invaded Poland. Citizens are advised to remain calm and follow all instructions from authorities. It's happening, David says, his voice hollow. Just like I said it would. Sarah clings to Mama, her eyes wide with fear she doesn't fully understand. Where are we going? She keeps asking, but no one seems to have an answer. The good news is that your family is together. The bad news is that the world as you know it has just ended and a dark chapter is beginning. The next days pass in a blur of confusion and fear. The German army advances quickly across Poland. In Krakow, people rush to leave the city, but the roads are clogged and rumours spread that the borders are closed. Your family decides to stay, at least for now. Papa says running blindly might be more dangerous than waiting to see what happens. But what happens is worse than any of you imagined. Within weeks, new rules are posted throughout the city. Jews must register with the authorities. Jews may not use public transportation. Jews may not enter parks or theatres. Jewish children may not attend public schools. You watch as Papa's bookshop is marked with a Star of David, just like Mr. Abramovich's tailor shop was. Customers stop coming altogether. Your family's savings dwindle rapidly. What does it mean to be Jewish? You ask Mama one night as she braids your hair before bed. It's a question you've never really thought about before. You've always just been Hannah, a girl who loves books and climbing trees and swimming in the river in summer. Mama's fingers pause in your hair. Being Jewish means belonging to a people with a rich history and beautiful traditions, she says carefully. It means finding joy in learning, in asking questions. It means understanding that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. But why do some people hate us for it? Mama sighs, a sound so weary it makes your heart ache. People often fear what is different, what they don't understand, and sometimes when times are hard, they look for someone to blame. But remember this, Hannah, there is nothing wrong with being who we are. Nothing. Her words comfort you that night, but as the months pass, it becomes harder to hold on to that comfort. The world shrinks around you, boundaries drawn tighter and tighter. In March 1941, the Germans establish a ghetto in Krakow. All Jews are forced to leave their homes and move into a small, cramped area of the city. Your family is allowed to take only what you can carry. The day you have to leave your apartment is grey and drizzling, as if the sky itself is mourning. You look around your bedroom one last time, the lace curtains, the shelf of books, the view of the street you've woken up to every morning of your life. We'll come back, you whisper to yourself, running your fingers along the height marks Papa has penciled on the doorframe since you were 3. This isn't forever, but deep down you're starting to understand that some goodbyes are permanent. The ghetto is nothing like your old neighborhood. Families are crowded into tiny apartments, sometimes 3 or 4 families sharing a space meant for one. Your family is luckier than most. You share an apartment with only the Levinskys, who have a daughter your age, named Ruth. Food is scarce. There are long lines for bread that often runs out before everyone is served. The winter of 1941-42 is bitterly cold, and there's never enough coal for heating. People grow thin and sickly. Every day, it seems, someone you know disappears, taken away for resettlement, though no one really believes that's what's happening. Despite everything, your parents try to maintain some normalcy. Papa sets up a small lending library with the books you manage to bring from the shop. Mama continues to teach you and Sarah lessons at the kitchen table. You celebrate Shabbat each Friday, even when there's barely enough food for a proper meal. This is how we resist, Papa tells you, by remembering who we are, by continuing to live as human beings with dignity. You become close friends with Ruth Levinsky. She's quiet and serious, with thoughtful green eyes and a talent for drawing. Together, you create a secret hideaway in a forgotten corner of the ghetto, a place where you can sit and talk and pretend just for a little while that you're normal girls with normal lives ahead of you. Do you think we'll ever get out of here? Ruth asks one day as you sit in your hideaway, sharing a precious apple her father managed to trade for. Of course we will, you say, with more confidence than you feel. This can't last forever. But as 1942 progresses, conditions in the ghetto worsen. There are more actions, sudden roundups where Germans and their collaborators storm through the streets, selecting people to be taken away. Your family develops a hiding place beneath the floorboards where you and Sarah can quickly disappear if necessary. One night in August, you're awakened by loud pounding and shouting in the street. Through a crack in the boarded-up window, you see trucks and soldiers. Papa rushes into your room. "Quick, girls, into the hiding place," he whispers urgently. "Not a sound, no matter what you hear. Wait until someone you know comes to get you." You grab Sarah's hand and lead her to the hiding spot. Papa helps you down into the narrow space and then replaces the floorboards. It's pitch dark and smells of damp earth. Sarah trembles against you, and you hold her close, whispering soothingly, even as your own heart pounds with fear. Above you, the apartment door crashes open. There are shouts, the sound of things breaking, your mother crying out. You press your hand over Sarah's mouth to stifle her sobs, tears streaming silently down your own face. Then, the worst sound of all, the heavy footsteps leaving, taking your parents and David with them. The door slams. Silence falls. You wait, as Papa told you to do. Hours pass. Sarah eventually falls into an exhausted sleep against your shoulder, but you remain awake, listening, hoping. It's Ruth who finds you, late the next day. When she pulls back the floorboards, the sudden light blinds you. "They're gone," she says simply, helping you out. Her face is tear-streaked, her clothes rumpled. "My parents too. The apartment has been ransacked. There's no sign of your family except a single shoe of David's lying in the hallway, and Mama's recipe book splayed open on the kitchen floor. The good news is that you and Sarah survived the roundup. The bad news is that you're now alone in a world that has become unimaginably dangerous." Ruth's uncle, Mr. Levinsky's brother, takes you in. He managed to avoid the roundup by hiding in the building's attic. He's a stern man with a perpetual frown, but his eyes soften when he looks at you and Sarah, now orphans like so many other children in the ghetto. "We stay together," he tells the three of you. "You, Sarah, and Ruth. We watch out for each other. That's how we survive." Days blend into weeks, and you cling to the hope that somehow, somewhere, your parents and David are still alive. Maybe they've been sent to a labor camp. Maybe they'll find a way to escape and come back for you. But as autumn turns to winter, even that hope begins to fade. There are rumors of places called Auschwitz and Treblinka, camps where Jews are not sent to work, but to die. You try not to believe these rumors, but they settle into your bones like the constant cold. In the spring of 1943, there's another major action. This time, Ruth's uncle manages to hide all three of you in the attic, beneath a false wall he's constructed. For 3 days, you remain perfectly still, barely breathing, as soldiers search the building repeatedly. When it's finally safe to emerge, the ghetto is half empty. Most of your neighbors are gone. Those who remain move about like ghosts, hollow-eyed and silent. "We can't stay here," Ruth's uncle says that night. "The ghetto will be liquidated soon. We need a different plan." That plan comes in the form of a Polish woman named Mrs. Wojcik, who once worked as a housekeeper for Ruth's family before the war. She has connections with the Polish resistance and offers to help smuggle children out of the ghetto. "I can take 2 at a time," she tells Ruth's uncle in a whispered conversation you're not supposed to overhear. "The little one first, then one of the older girls. I have families arranged who will hide them until this madness ends." The decision is agonizing. Sarah is only 9 now, still so small and vulnerable. The thought of being separated from her tears at your heart, but staying in the ghetto means certain death, and Mrs. Wojcik can't take all of you at once without raising suspicion. "I should go with Sarah," you insist to Ruth's uncle. "She needs me." He shakes his head. "The younger child goes first, with papers that will be easier to believe. Then you or Ruth. The one who remains will come later when I can arrange it." "But who will look after her?" you ask, your voice breaking. "She gets nightmares. She needs someone to sing to her." "The family who will take her are good people," Mrs. Wojcik assures you. "They have children of their own. She won't be alone." That night, you hold Sarah as she sleeps, memorizing the feel of her small body against yours, the way her hair curls at the nape of her neck, the soft sound of her breathing. "Be brave, little bird," you whisper. "We'll find each other again when this is all over. I promise." In the morning, Mrs. Wojcik arrives with clothes for Sarah, simple, non-Jewish clothing that will help her blend in on the Aryan side of the city. You help Sarah dress, fighting back tears as you brush her hair and tie a blue ribbon in it, just as Mama used to do. "Remember, your name is now Zofia Kowalski," Mrs. Wojcik reminds her. "You're my niece from the countryside, coming to stay with me because your mother is ill. If anyone asks, you're Catholic. You know your prayers, yes?" Sarah nods solemnly. Ruth's uncle has been teaching her Catholic prayers for weeks, preparing her for this moment. "And no matter what," Mrs. Wojcik continues, her voice gentle but firm, "you must never ever tell anyone that you're Jewish. Not even the family you'll be staying with. It's safer if they don't know. Do you understand?" Sarah nods again, her small face serious. "I understand." The goodbye is quick. It has to be. One long, fierce hug, and then Mrs. Wojcik is leading Sarah away. At the door, Sarah turns back once, her eyes finding yours, and then she's gone. That evening, Ruth's uncle receives word that Sarah made it safely past the ghetto walls. She's now with a Polish family in a village outside the city. It's the last piece of news you'll have of her for a very long time. A week later, it's decided that Ruth will be the next to leave. Her blonde hair and green eyes make her look less typically Jewish, Mrs. Wojcik explains. She'll have an easier time passing. You hug your friend goodbye, both of you crying openly now. Find Sarah if you can, you beg her. Take care of her if I don't, but you can't finish the sentence. Ruth squeezes your hand. We'll all be together again, she promises. You, me, Sarah, when this is over. After Ruth leaves, it's just you and her uncle in the increasingly empty ghetto. The plan is for you to leave next, but days pass with no word from Mrs. Wojcik. The ghetto grows more dangerous by the hour. And then, one night in May 1943, the final liquidation begins. Soldiers pour into the ghetto, going building by building, forcing everyone out into the streets. There's no time to hide, no time to wait for Mrs. Wojcik. Run, Ruth's uncle tells you as the soldiers approach your building. Get to the sewers. There are resistance fighters who help people escape that way. What about you, you ask, even as he pushes you toward a loose board in the floor that leads to the building's basement. I'll create a distraction. His eyes are calm, resigned. Go, Hannah, live. Those are the last words he speaks to you. As you slip through the floor into the darkness below, you hear him moving toward the door, ready to face whatever comes. Alone in the basement, heart pounding, you face a choice that no child should ever have to make. Where to go, how to survive, in a world that wants you dead simply because of who you are. The good news is that you're still alive, still fighting. The bad news is that the hardest part of your journey is just beginning. In the damp darkness of the basement, you strain your ears, listening to the chaos above, the shouts of soldiers, the terrified cries of your neighbors, the heavy thud of boots on wooden floors. It all filters down through the thin ceiling. Dust rains down on you with each footstep overhead. You've never been so afraid, not even during the worst roundups. You're completely alone now. No papa to guide you, no mama to comfort you, no David to protect you, no Sarah to be strong for. Just you, Hannah Goldstein, 13 years old and facing a world intent on erasing you. But something inside you refuses to give in to despair. Maybe it's Papa's voice in your head saying, this is how we resist, by continuing to live. Maybe it's the promise you made to Sarah that you'd find her again. Whatever it is, it propels you through the darkness toward the small window that opens into an alley behind the building. The window is stuck, swollen with moisture. You push with all your strength, feeling the rough wood scrape against your palms. For a terrible moment, you think it won't budge, that you're trapped. Then, with a sudden crack, it gives way. The night air, smoky with burning buildings elsewhere in the ghetto, rushes in. You pull yourself up and through, dropping into the narrow alley. The sound of gunfire is closer now. Keeping to the shadows, you make your way toward the place Ruth's uncle described. Sewer system where resistance fighters supposedly help people escape. The streets are chaos. Building after building is being emptied. People herded into groups at gunpoint. You duck behind garbage bins, press yourself into doorways, freeze in dark corners whenever soldiers pass. Your heart hammers so loudly you're certain it will give you away. Finally, you spot what must be the entrance. A rusted metal cover in a secluded corner where two alleys meet. You glance around, making sure no one is watching, then kneel beside it, searching for a way to lift it. You'll need help with that. The voice nearly stops your heart. You whirl around, ready to run, but instead of a German soldier, you see a boy not much older than you. His clothes are ragged, his face smudged with dirt, but his eyes are alert and knowing. Are you trying to get to the sewers? He asks in a low voice. You hesitate, unsure whether to trust him. I'm Jakob, he continues. I help the resistance. They sent me to guide people tonight. How do I know you're telling the truth? Your voice sounds strange to your own ears. hoarse from fear and disuse. Jakub shrugs. You don't, but your choices are to trust me or stay here and be caught. They're clearing the entire ghetto tonight. He has a point. Taking a deep breath, you nod. Good, now help me with this cover. Together, you manage to slide the heavy metal disc just enough to create an opening. A rank odor rises from the darkness below. Ladies first, Jakub says with a grim smile. You lower yourself into the hole, your feet finding a rusty ladder that descends into absolute blackness. The smell is overwhelming, a mixture of sewage, mold, and decay. But you force yourself to keep climbing down. Jakub follows, sliding the cover partially back into place above you. Keep one hand on the wall, he whispers when you reach the bottom. The footing is slippery, and try to breathe through your mouth. The sewer is a nightmare. You wade through filth, sometimes up to your knees. Rats scurry past, their eyes gleaming in the occasional shaft of light from street grates above. The darkness is almost complete, and more than once you stumble and would have fallen if not for Jakub's steadying hand. How much farther? You ask after what feels like hours. Not far now. There's a junction ahead where we meet others. The junction turns out to be a slightly wider section where several tunnels meet. A small, carefully shielded lantern provides meager light. 3 adults are waiting, 2 men and a woman, all armed with pistols. This is the last one I could find, Jakub tells them, gesturing to you. The woman looks you up and down. Her face is hard, weathered, but her eyes soften slightly when they meet yours. What's your name, girl? Hannah, you start to say, then remember. Jewish names are dangerous now. Helena, you correct yourself quickly. The woman nods, understanding your slip. I'm Irina. This is Stefan and Marek. We're with the resistance. We're going to get you out of the city. Where will I go? You ask. We have a network of safe houses, Stefan explains. Places where people like you can hide until... He doesn't finish the sentence. Until what? Until the war ends? Until it's safe to be Jewish again? No one knows when or if that day will come. First, we need to get you cleaned up and give you new papers, Irina says. Your accent is good, but you'll need to be perfect. One mistake and... She draws a finger across her throat. The good news is that the Polish resistance is helping you escape. The bad news is that survival means erasing every trace of your Jewish identity, the very thing Papa taught you to be proud of. The journey through the sewers continues for another hour. Finally, you climb up a different ladder, emerging in what appears to be an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Several other escapees are already there, a middle-aged couple, an old man, and 2 teenage boys. This is as far as I go, Jakub tells you. Irina will take over from here. You thank him, suddenly reluctant to see him leave. He's the last connection to the ghetto, to the life you've left behind. Good luck, Helena, he says, emphasizing your new name. Then he's gone back into the sewer system to find more people to save. The next few days pass in a blur. You're taken to a small apartment where you're able to bathe properly for the first time in months. Your hair is cut short and dyed a lighter brown. You're given new clothes, simple but clean, the kind a Polish Christian girl might wear. Irina coaches you relentlessly on your new identity. Your name is Helena Wisniewski. You're the orphaned niece of a Polish family in the countryside, sent to work as a domestic helper in Warsaw. You were baptized at the Church of St. Mary in Krakow. Your favorite prayer is the Hail Mary. You crossed yourself when you enter a church, right hand touching forehead, chest, left shoulder, right shoulder. Never hesitate, Irina drills into you. If someone questions you, be indignant that they would doubt you. Act offended, not afraid. You practice until your new identity feels like a second skin, even as you silently recite the Hebrew prayers Mama taught you, determined not to forget. After a week, you're given forged identity papers and a small bundle of possessions, a change of clothes, a Catholic prayer book, a loaf of bread, and a note with an address in Warsaw. Memorize that address, then destroy the note, Stefan instructs you. When you arrive in Warsaw, go there immediately. They're expecting you. Will I be safe there? You ask. Stefan's expression is grim. Nowhere is completely safe, but this family has helped others like you. They're good people. The train to Warsaw is crowded with Poles going about their business under occupation. You sit stiffly, trying to appear calm and unremarkable, even as your heart races every time a German soldier walks through the carriage. Your papers are checked twice. Each time, you force yourself to meet the soldier's eyes with the right mixture of respect and innocence, just as Irina taught you. Warsaw is overwhelming after the confines of the ghetto. The streets are busy, shops are open, people are going about their lives. There's a strange normality to it that feels almost obscene after what you've experienced. You find the address, a modest apartment above a bakery. The woman who answers the door looks at you with suspicion until you give the phrase Stefan taught you. I'm looking for my aunt's remedy for spring fever. Her expression changes immediately. Come in, we've been expecting you. The Kowalski family consists of Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski and their teenage son, Tomasz. They're part of the underground network that hides Jews, though they never use that word inside the apartment. The walls have ears, Mrs. Kowalski warns you. Even here, you must be Helena at all times. You're given a small pallet in the corner of their kitchen. Your job is to help Mrs. Kowalski with housework and in the bakery downstairs. You'll be introduced as a distant cousin from the countryside. Keep your head down, Mr. Kowalski advises. Don't draw attention. Don't make friends. The fewer people who notice you, the safer you'll be. Life with the Kowalskis settles into a routine. You rise early to help in the bakery, kneading dough and serving customers. In the afternoons, you clean the apartment and help prepare meals. The work is hard but familiar, not so different from the chores you did at home before the war. Mrs. Kowalski is strict but fair. Mr. Kowalski is quieter, often absent for days at a time on mysterious business. Tomasz is the friendliest, teaching you card games in the evenings and occasionally sneaking you an extra pastry from the bakery. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. You learn to answer to Helena without hesitation. You attend church with the family on Sundays, your lips forming the Catholic prayers that once would have been forbidden. You stop flinching at the sight of German uniforms. On the surface, you become the Polish Christian girl your papers claim you are. But at night, alone on your pallet, you silently recite the Shema, the Jewish prayer Mama taught you as soon as you could speak. You recall the faces of your family, Papa with his kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, Mama with her gentle hands and voice that could soothe any fear, David with his serious expression that would break into unexpected, brilliant smiles, and Sarah, your little bird, with her curious nature and trusting heart. I'm still here, you whisper to their memories. I'm still Hannah. In July 1944, everything changes again. The Soviet army is advancing toward Warsaw. Hope rises in the city. Perhaps liberation is near. The Polish resistance grows bolder. Then the Warsaw Uprising begins, a massive effort by the Polish resistance to drive the Germans out of the city. For a brief, heady moment, it seems like it might succeed. Parts of the city are wrested from German control. People celebrate in the streets. But the German response is swift and merciless. Bombers appear overhead. Buildings crumble. The fighting is house to house, street to street. The bakery below the Kowalskis' apartment is damaged in the shelling, forcing you all to flee to a relative's home in a different district. The uprising fails. In retaliation, the Germans begin systematically destroying Warsaw and deporting its citizens. One night, soldiers storm the house where you're staying. "Everyone out!" they shout. "Bring only what you can carry." There's no time to run, no place to hide. You're herded into the street along with the Kowalskis and dozens of other families. German officers sort through the crowd, separating men from women, young from old. Workers needed for the Reich, they announce. All healthy individuals between 14 and 45 years old, step forward. Mr. Kowalski gives his wife a quick, desperate kiss before being pushed into a group of men. Mrs. Kowalski tries to hold on to Tomasz, but he's torn from her grasp and added to another group. You're pulled away from Mrs. Kowalski and shoved into a line with other young women and girls. Name, a German officer demands when you reach the front of the line. Helena Wisniewski, you reply, your voice steadier than you feel. He barely glances at your papers before making a notation and pointing you toward a truck. You climb aboard, finding yourself crushed between other terrified women. The good news is that no one has discovered your true identity. The bad news is that you're being sent to a labor camp in Germany, separated from the only protection you've known for the past year. The journey is a nightmare, squeezed into a cattle car with dozens of others, with only a bucket for a toilet and meagre rations of stale bread and water. You travel for days. The air is stifling, thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and fear. Some people cry, some pray, some sit in numb silence. An elderly woman dies during the second night, her body left in the corner of the car because there's nowhere else to put it. When the train finally stops and the doors slide open, the sudden light is blinding. Disoriented, you stumble out onto a platform, squinting against the sunlight. Line up, German soldiers shout. Women and children here, men there. Looking around, you realize this isn't Germany. The signs are in Polish. You've been brought to another camp within Poland itself. Later, you learn this is a transition camp, a place where workers are sorted and assigned to various factories or farms in service to the Reich. The conditions are harsh, but not yet the horror you've heard whispered about other camps. You sleep in crowded barracks on thin straw mattresses. The work is grueling, constructing fortifications, digging trenches, loading and unloading supply trains, but you're fed enough to keep working. Weeks pass. You keep your head down, speak only when spoken to, and try to remain inconspicuous. Your greatest fear is still discovery, that someone will somehow realize you're Jewish, that your carefully constructed identity as Helena will crumble. Then comes the morning when a new transport is being assembled. Names are called, yours among them. You're given a small piece of bread and a sliver of cheese, then marched to the train platform once again. Where are we going? You dare to ask one of the guards. Auschwitz, he replies indifferently. They need workers in the factories there. The name sends a chill through you. Even in the transition camp, there have been whispers about Auschwitz, a place of no return, a place of death. But what choice do you have? You board the train. This journey is shorter, but no less terrible. When the train stops and the doors open, you find yourself on a platform unlike any you've seen before. It stretches into the distance, lined with guards and snarling dogs. Beyond it, you can see rows of barracks extending as far as the eye can see, surrounded by barbed wire and watchtowers. And the smell, an acrid, terrible odour that catches in your throat and makes your eyes water, a smell you can't identify but that fills you with instinctive dread. Out! Everyone out! The guards shout. Leave your belongings on the train, you will receive them later. It's a lie, of course, but you don't know that yet. You step down onto the platform, joining the confusion of people being sorted into lines. Men to the left, women and children to the right. The sorting happens with brutal efficiency. SS officers walk along the lines, occasionally pulling someone out of one line and pushing them into another. One officer stops in front of you, examining your face with cold eyes. Age? He barks. 15, you reply, making yourself stand straight, trying to look strong and capable of work. He points to the right, and you shuffle along with the other women. Ahead, another officer is dividing this group further. The elderly, the obviously ill, women with small children, they're directed to one side. Younger women who appear healthy are sent to the other. You're sent with a healthier group. It's only later that you learn how fortunate that was, that the other group was sent directly to the gas chambers. But at the time, all you know is confusion and fear as you're marched through a gate bearing the words Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free. Inside the camp, the process of dehumanization begins immediately. You're taken to a large building where you're forced to strip naked under the watchful eyes of female guards. Your clothes are taken away, your hair, already cut short in Warsaw but grown out a bit since then, is shaved completely. You're given a harsh, quick shower with foul-smelling disinfectant that burns your skin, then handed a shapeless striped dress and a pair of wooden clogs. "Move! Move!" the guards shout, hitting slower women with sticks. "Line up for processing!" Processing means being registered and tattooed. When the needle pierces your arm, etching a number into your skin, you bite your lip until it bleeds to keep from crying out. From this moment on, you are no longer Hannah or even Helena. You are A1T053. The barracks you're assigned to is already overcrowded, with narrow wooden bunks stacked 3 high. Each bunk holds 3 or 4 women, forced to sleep pressed against each other. There is one filthy bucket in the corner for a toilet, used by over 100 women. An older woman makes space for you on her bunk. "First day?" she asks quietly. You nod, too overwhelmed to speak. "Listen carefully," she says. "I will tell you how to survive here. It won't be easy, but it's possible." Her name is Esther, and she's been in Auschwitz for 8 months. An eternity in a place where many don't last a week. That first night, as you lie sleepless in the crowded bunk, the reality of your situation truly sinks in. This is Auschwitz, the place of nightmares. You've heard rumors, whispered stories, but nothing prepared you for the actual horror of it. In the distance, you can see flames rising from tall chimneys, smell that terrible odor that you now understand is the smell of burning bodies. The knowledge sits like a stone in your chest, but even here, in this place designed to strip away every shred of humanity, you make a silent promise to yourself. They may have taken your name, your hair, your possessions, but they cannot take who you are inside. Somehow you will survive. Somehow you will keep your promise to find Sarah again. As dawn breaks on your first full day in Auschwitz, the shrill blast of a whistle tears through the barracks. Aufstehen, get up, appell, roll call. You stumble out with the others into the pre-dawn chill, lining up in rows of 5 for the first of many roll calls that will punctuate your days here, standing at attention for hours regardless of weather, as guards count and recount the prisoners. Anyone who falters, faints, or breaks rank is beaten. And so begins your life in Auschwitz-Birkenau, a life balanced on the knife edge between survival and death, where each day brings new horrors and each night brings the question, can I endure another day of this? The good news is that you're still alive, still fighting to survive. The bad news is that Auschwitz is designed to make survival nearly impossible, and each day will test the limits of your endurance in ways you never imagined possible. Your first days in Auschwitz blur together in a haze of hunger, exhaustion, and fear. The camp routine is designed to break you down, to strip away everything that makes you human. Each day begins before dawn with the shriek of whistles and shouts of "Aufstehen, get up!" You have mere minutes to use the overflowing latrine bucket, straighten your thin blanket, and rush outside for roll call, or appell, as the Germans call it. Roll call is a special kind of torment, standing perfectly still for hours in rows of 5, regardless of weather, baking in summer heat, drenched in autumn rain, or freezing in winter snow. The guards count and recount, ensuring no one has escaped during the night. If the numbers don't match their records, everyone stands longer while they search for the discrepancy. If someone has died in the night, a common occurrence, their bunkmates must still prop up the body for roll call. After roll call comes a meagre breakfast, a thin, bitter liquid they call coffee, and a small piece of dark bread. Then work assignments. Some women are sent to labour in factories on the camp's outskirts. Others work in the kitchens or laundry. The least fortunate are assigned to the Canada section, sorting through the belongings of new arrivals, a constant reminder of how many people are brought to Auschwitz never to leave. You're assigned to a factory detail, manufacturing parts for German aircraft. The work is precise and demanding, and the quotas are impossible. Those who fail to meet them are beaten or denied food. The factory is a long march from your barracks, adding hours of walking to your already exhausting day. Lunch is watery soup, occasionally with a floating potato or turnip if you're lucky. Dinner is another piece of bread, sometimes with a smear of margarine or a spoonful of watery jam. The hunger is constant, a gnawing presence that never leaves you. Don't think about food you used to eat, Esther advises you during your first week. It will drive you mad. Think only about the next meal here, nothing more. Esther becomes your lifeline in those early days. At perhaps 50, though hardship makes everyone look older, in Auschwitz. She has survived longer than most. Before the war, she was a schoolteacher in Łódź. Now she teaches you how to survive. Never volunteer for anything, she whispers as you lie pressed together in the crowded bunk at night. Stay in the middle of any group, not at the front where you'll be noticed, not at the back where the slow and weak are culled. Always in the middle. She shows you how to eat your bread, slowly, making each bite last, savouring even the crumbs. How to clean yourself with minimal water. How to massage your feet to prevent the swelling that comes from standing for hours in ill-fitting wooden clogs. Most importantly, she teaches you to hold onto your humanity in small, secret ways. They want us to become animals, she tells you, to fight each other for scraps, to think only of ourselves. The moment you do that, they've won. Find one kind thing to do each day, no matter how small. Share a crumb of bread. Help someone who stumbles. Remember a poem. This is how we resist. In your barracks of 150 women, a strange community forms. There are Polish political prisoners identified by the red triangles on their uniforms. There are Roma women with brown triangles. And there are Jews from all over Europe, French, Dutch, Greek, Hungarian, marked with yellow stars. Despite language barriers, you learn to communicate. You become friends with a Czech girl named Magda, who's just a year older than you. She was a violin prodigy before the war, with delicate hands now calloused and cracked from labour. At night, she moves her fingers in the air, silently practicing concertos so she won't forget them if she survives. Then there's Lena, a Polish girl your age who speaks German fluently and sometimes translates the guards' orders, giving the other prisoners precious extra seconds to comply before punishment rains down. Her mother died in the Warsaw Ghetto and she came to Auschwitz alone, just like you. Together with Esther, the four of you form a camp family, a small unit of mutual protection and support that is often the difference between life and death in Auschwitz. You share what little food you can save. You take turns supporting each other during endless roll calls when someone is too weak to stand alone. You watch for signs of illness in each other, knowing that showing weakness means selection for the gas chambers. Selection. The very word sends terror through the barracks. Periodically, SS doctors visit, most notably Dr. Mengele, whom prisoners call the Angel of Death for his role in deciding who lives and who dies. Prisoners are forced to strip naked and parade before the doctors, who make split-second decisions based on appearance and perceived health. Those deemed too weak or ill are sent to the showers, the camp's terrible euphemism for the gas chambers. During your second month at Auschwitz, a selection is announced. You stand in line, trying to pinch colour into your gaunt cheeks, trying to stand straight despite exhaustion, trying not to show the fear that makes your heart pound so hard you worry the doctors can see it through your protruding ribs. Dr. Mengele pauses in front of you, his cold eyes assessing. He asks you to walk a few steps, then turn. You comply, focusing on keeping your movements steady. After what feels like an eternity, he nods and points to the right, the side for those who will continue to work, continue to live a little longer. But Esther is not so fortunate. When her turn comes, her persistent cough, which she's been trying desperately to hide for weeks, gives her away. Mengele points left without hesitation. That night is the worst since your arrival. Esther knows what awaits her in the morning, yet she remains calm, almost serene. "I have something for you," she whispers, removing a tiny object from a secret pocket she's sewn into her dress. It's a thimble-sized metal container, like a tiny pill box. Open it. Inside is a minuscule scroll of paper, smaller than your little fingernail. "It's the Shema prayer," Esther explains. "I've kept it hidden since I arrived. Now it's yours. Keep it safe. Keep it secret." The tiny scroll represents everything forbidden in Auschwitz: Jewish identity, religious practice, hope for a future. It's dangerous to possess, but infinitely precious. How did you keep going, knowing what might happen? You ask her, your voice breaking. Esther smiles faintly. Each morning I would think, just today, I only need to survive today. And then when night came, I would be grateful and think, now I only need to survive tomorrow. One day at a time, Hannah. That's the only way. It's the first time anyone has called you by your real name since you arrived. Somehow, Esther knew or guessed that Helena wasn't truly who you were. In the morning, Esther is taken away with the others who were selected. You never see her again, but her final gift, the tiny prayer scroll and her wisdom about surviving one day at a time, becomes your talisman. The good news is that you have friends who help you endure the unendurable. The bad news is that in Auschwitz, every connection makes you vulnerable to new loss. As summer turns to autumn in 1944, changes ripple through the camp. The sound of distant artillery can sometimes be heard. New prisoners whisper about Allied victories, about Soviet troops advancing toward Poland. The guards become more tense, sometimes more brutal, sometimes distracted. Work becomes increasingly frantic. Your factory unit is forced to labor longer hours to meet impossible quotas. Food rations, already meager, are reduced further. More selections occur, with the weak and ill removed with brutal efficiency. You survive by focusing on Esther's wisdom, just today, only today, and by clinging to memories of your family. In quiet moments, you recite their names like a prayer. Papa, Mama, David, Sarah. You promise them silently that you will live to tell their story. One bitterly cold day in November, you're returning from the factory when you see a new transport arriving at the platform. The routine is grimly familiar. The confusion, the separation, the terror on the faces of the new arrivals. You force yourself to look away. Witnessing adds another layer of trauma you can't afford. But then a flash of something familiar catches your eye. A small figure in a blue coat, dark curls escaping from a woolen hat. Your heart stops. It can't be. It's impossible. Yet the resemblance is so strong it steals your breath. The little girl turns, scanning the strange surroundings with wide, frightened eyes. And though it's been nearly 2 years since you've seen her, though starvation and hardship have changed her as they've changed you, you know without doubt. Sarah, your little sister, is on the platform at Auschwitz. Before you can think, before you can plan, you're moving. Breaking formation is a punishable offense, potentially a fatal one, but in this moment, you don't care. You lunge from the line, darting between surprised prisoners and toward the platform. Sarah! You're screaming her name, your voice carrying across the roll call square. Sarah! She turns, searching for the source of the voice. When her eyes find yours, they widen in shock and recognition. Hannah? It's barely a whisper, but you can read it on her lips. Then everything happens at once. A guard sees you breaking ranks and shouts. The prisoners around Sarah are being directed toward a building. The building you know leads to the gas chambers. Sarah is being pulled along with them. You run faster than you've ever moved in your life, but the distance feels impossible. Guards are converging on you from multiple directions. Someone grabs your arm, but you wrench away with strength born of desperation. Sarah, run to me! You scream, gesturing wildly. Whether by miracle or simply the confusion of the moment, Sarah breaks away from her group. She's running toward you, her thin legs pumping, the blue coat flapping behind her like wings. You're almost to each other when a guard intercepts her path. For a moment, time stops as he raises his baton. Then Magda is there. Magda, who was walking behind you in line. Magda, who must have followed when you ran. She throws herself at the guard, creating a critical distraction. Sarah darts past, and suddenly she's in your arms, her small body colliding with yours with enough force to nearly knock you down. Hannah, 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 she sobs, clinging to you with desperate strength. There's no time for reunion. Guards are everywhere, shouting, advancing. Lena appears at your side, her face tight with fear but determined. "This way," she hisses, pulling you toward your work column, which is now in chaos. You lift Sarah, she's terrifyingly light, and run where Lena directs. Behind you, you hear the sickening sound of blows landing, Magda's cry of pain. Guilt twists your stomach, but you don't stop, can't stop. Sarah's life depends on it. Somehow, incredibly, Lena manages to integrate you back into the column as it reforms. She pushes you into the center, surrounding you with other women who, understanding instinctively what's happening, close ranks around you and Sarah. "Keep her hidden," Lena whispers urgently. "Head down, silent." Sarah trembles in your arms but remains quiet, sensing the danger. Her face is buried against your neck, her tears soaking into your thin dress. You can feel every bone in her back as you hold her. The march back to the barracks is the longest of your life. Every step you expect to be pulled out of line, to be shot on the spot, or dragged to the gas chambers with Sarah. But the confusion of the new transport works in your favor. By the time order is fully restored, your column is moving through the camp gates, returning to your block. Magda isn't with you. You learn later that she was beaten severely for her part in the distraction and taken to the camp hospital, a place few return from. In the barracks, the women move with practiced efficiency, creating a screened space with their bodies where you can assess Sarah without being visible from the door where guards sometimes appear for surprise inspections. Your sister is 9 years old now, though she looks younger. Her face is thin, but not yet showing the extreme emaciation of long-term starvation. Her eyes, Mama's eyes, are huge in her pale face. "Where did you come from?" you ask, your hands running over her as if to confirm she's really here. "How did this happen?" Between sobs, Sarah tells her story. The Polish family who took her in had kept her safe for over a year, treating her as one of their own children. But someone in their village became suspicious and reported them. The Germans came in the night, arrested the whole family, including their biological children, and sent them to Warsaw. From there, they were transported to Auschwitz. "They were kind to me, Hannah," Sarah whispers. "They never told anyone I was Jewish. Even when the Germans came, they said I was their niece." Your heart breaks anew, knowing that this family's compassion brought them to Auschwitz alongside Sarah, and now they've likely been sent to the gas chambers, while Sarah, by some miracle, has found you instead. Reality sets in quickly. Having Sarah with you is both miracle and terrible new danger. Children her age aren't supposed to be in the work barracks. If she's discovered, you'll both be killed immediately. "We need to make her less visible," Lena says practically. "Cut her hair shorter like ours. Find clothes that don't make her look so small." The women of your barracks, moved by Sarah's presence, rally around you. One donates a threadbare shirt that's still too big but can be tucked in. Another has an extra pair of worn wooden clogs. Someone else offers a scrap of cloth to bind Sarah's chest, making her look a bit older, a bit less obviously a child. That night, Sarah sleeps curled against you in your narrow bunk space, her body so light it barely makes the straw mattress dip. You lie awake, overwhelmed by joy at finding her alive and terror at what the future holds. "We survived this long," you whisper to her sleeping form. "We'll keep surviving." The next morning brings the first challenge, roll call. Each prisoner must stand in their assigned spot and be counted. Sarah has no spot, no prisoner number. If the count doesn't match the records, there will be a thorough search. Lena devises a plan. There's a woman in your block who has been desperately ill for days, barely conscious. She won't survive another day or two at most. "We'll stand Sarah in her place during roll call," Lena explains grimly. "We'll support the sick woman on one side of the formation during morning count and keep Sarah hidden in the barracks. Then we'll bring Sarah out for evening count and the sick woman can stay inside." It's a risky strategy, relying on the guards' indifference to individual prisoners and their focus on the total count being correct, but it works, for that day at least. "What happens when the sick woman dies?" you ask Lena privately. "We'll think of something else," she promises. "One day at a time, remember?" You teach Sarah everything Esther taught you about surviving in the camp, how to be invisible to the guards, how to eat slowly to make the meager rations feel more substantial, how to clean herself with almost no water, how to stand for hours without fainting. Sarah absorbs it all with the quick adaptability of children, though sometimes at night she cries silently for the Polish family who protected her, for Mama and Papa, for the normal life she barely remembers now. Tell me about before, she asks you one night, her voice so low it's barely a breath against your ear. Tell me about our home, so you whisper stories of your apartment in Krakow, of Papa's bookshop and Mama's piano lessons. You describe David's ambitions to become a doctor and how he used to let Sarah ride on his shoulders through the park. You recall the Shabbat dinners with candles and challah bread, the stories grandmother would tell about the old country. Is it still there? Sarah asks. Can we go back someday? Yes, you lie, because some lies are kinder than the truth. When this is over, we'll go home. December brings new horrors. The winter is bitterly cold and there's no heat in the barracks. Thin blankets and bodies pressed together provide the only warmth. Food rations are cut again. Disease spreads rapidly. Dysentery, typhus, tuberculosis. Every morning, there are more dead to be removed before roll call. Keeping Sarah hidden becomes harder. The sick woman whose place she took in formation has died, and you've had to improvise new strategies. Sometimes Sarah hides under the barracks during roll call. Sometimes she pretends to be a particularly small adult, standing in the back row where her height is less noticeable. Sometimes the count is simply wrong, but guards are growing more careless as news of the war turning against Germany spreads through the camp. Your greatest fear is selection. In mid-December, SS doctors once again come to evaluate which prisoners are still strong enough to work. If you're separated from Sarah during selection, she'll have no protection, no guidance on how to appear healthy and useful. The night before the scheduled selection, you make a desperate decision. Tomorrow when they come, you'll hide, you tell Sarah. There's a space beneath the floorboards near the back wall. It's tight, but you're small enough. What if they find me? Sarah asks, her eyes wide with fear. They won't, you promise, with more confidence than you feel. You'll be completely silent, completely still, like when we played hide and seek at home, remember, when you were so good at hiding that even David couldn't find you. Sarah nods, but her lower lip trembles. What if they take you away? You grip her shoulders, looking directly into her eyes. Listen to me. If something happens to me, you stay hidden until dark. Then you find Lena. She'll help you. But nothing is going to happen to me. We're going to stay together, just like I promised. The selection process is as harrowing as ever. Standing naked in the frigid barracks, trying not to shiver, trying to stand straight, trying to look healthy despite months of starvation and exhaustion. You pinch your cheeks hard to bring colour to them, pull your shoulders back to appear stronger than you are. Dr. Mengele moves down the line, occasionally stopping to examine a prisoner more closely, making notes on his clipboard. When he reaches you, his eyes linger a moment too long. He makes a note. Your heart stops. But he moves on without speaking, without indicating whether his note condemned you or spared you. Only when the selection ends and you're directed to the right, the side for those who will continue working, do you allow yourself to breathe again. Later, when it's safe, you help Sarah out from her hiding place. She's stiff and cold from hours of immobility, but unharmed. You hold her close, her heartbeat against yours a reassurance more powerful than words. See, you whisper, we're still together. One more day. One more day becomes your shared mantra. Just survive one more day, and then another and another. The good news is that you and Sarah have each other, a miracle in the midst of hell. The bad news is that winter in Auschwitz brings new challenges that will test your strength and resolve to the breaking point. January 1945 arrives with bone-chilling cold and an atmosphere of changing tension in Auschwitz. The sound of distant artillery grows more frequent, no longer just occasional rumbles, but a steady, approaching thunder. The guards are visibly on edge, some harsher than ever, some strangely distracted. The Russians are coming, whispers Lena one evening, having overheard SS officers talking. The Soviet army is pushing the Germans back. They might reach Poland soon. This news spreads through the barracks like a current of electricity, awakening something dangerous and precious: hope. After months, for some women, years, of living solely in the present moment, of focusing only on surviving one more day, the possibility of a future beyond Auschwitz seems almost too much to comprehend. For you and Sarah, hope is a complicated thing. On one hand, liberation would mean an end to the daily terror of Auschwitz. On the other, it would bring new uncertainties. Where would you go? How would you survive? Is there anyone left from your family? These questions hover at the edges of your mind, but you push them away. First, you must survive the winter. And winter in Auschwitz is a special kind of hell. The temperature drops far below freezing. The unheated barracks offer almost no protection from the bitter cold. Your prisoner uniform, the thin striped dress and threadbare jacket, was inadequate even in summer. In winter, it's a cruel joke. Rub your hands and feet whenever you can, you instruct Sarah, demonstrating how to massage circulation back into numbed extremities. If they start to turn white or blue, that's frostbite. You have to warm them immediately. The morning roll calls become instruments of torture, standing motionless for hours in the pre-dawn darkness in temperatures that freeze breath into clouds of ice is a test of endurance many fail. Each day, women collapse in the rows, their bodies simply giving out. The guards drag them away. They don't return. Sarah stands beside you during these roll calls now, no longer hiding. In the chaos of winter and the distractions of approaching defeat, the precise prisoner counts have grown sloppier. She's become just another faceless number in the crowd, indistinguishable to guards who can barely be bothered to count accurately anymore. But if the guards have grown less attentive to some details, they've become more brutal in other ways. Random beatings increase, food rations, already meagre, dwindle further. The soup is mostly hot water now, with perhaps a sliver of turnip floating in it. The bread portion grows smaller each week. They're punishing us because they're losing the war, Lena explains grimly. They know it's ending, and they want to take as many of us with them as they can. You and Sarah have developed a system for your meagre rations. You each take half your bread portion and save it in a small cloth bundle. If one of you is selected for an especially difficult work assignment, you can have a few extra crumbs for strength. If one becomes ill, the other has a reserve to share. It's a small act of mutual protection that helps you both survive. Work continues despite the cold and hunger. You're still assigned to the factory, manufacturing parts for German aircraft. The long march from barracks to factory and back is almost more tortuous than the work itself, trudging through snow in wooden clogs that provide no warmth. Feet so numb you can barely feel them. Sarah has been put to work sorting clothing in Canada, the area where possessions taken from new arrivals are processed. It's easier physical labor than the factory, but psychologically devastating, especially for a child. Each coat, each pair of shoes, each toy or photograph represents a person who has likely been sent to the gas chambers. Sarah comes back each evening with shadows in her eyes that no child should have. "I found a doll today," she tells you one night, her voice flat. "It looked like the one grandmother gave me for my birthday. I wondered if the little girl who owned it is dead now." You hold her close, wishing you could shield her from such knowledge, such grief. But in Auschwitz, there is no protection from reality. Magda never returned from the camp hospital after being beaten for helping with Sarah's escape from the newcomers' line. Her absence leaves a hole in your small family that can't be filled. You think of her often, especially at night when the barracks grow quiet, except for the sounds of coughing and occasional muffled crying. You imagine her practicing her silent violin concertos somewhere, perhaps not in this world, but somewhere music still exists. Mid-January brings a new development. The sound of artillery is now unmistakable, close enough to rattle the barracks windows. Work details are suddenly cancelled. Guards rush about, burning documents. Something is happening. On January 17th, roll call is disorganized, hurried. Instead of the usual meticulous counting, guards simply sweep through the barracks, ordering everyone outside. There's an air of barely controlled panic among the SS officers. "Evacuation," the word passes through the crowd. "The camp is being evacuated." Stay close to me, you tell Sarah, gripping her hand tightly. No matter what happens, don't let go. The prisoners are gathered in the main square, thousands of skeletal figures shivering in the bitter cold. German officers shout orders, dividing people into columns. Those who move too slowly are shot where they stand, their bodies left in the snow. They're marching the prisoners west, Lena whispers, having positioned herself near you and Sarah. Away from the Russians, we need to stay together. The confusion is overwhelming. SS guards with dogs patrol the edges of the crowd, barking orders in German that many prisoners don't understand. People are being shoved into marching formations with no regard for which barracks they came from or who they were with. In the chaos, a terrible choice presents itself. Some prisoners are being selected to remain behind, those too ill to march or needed for final dismantling work. Those marching west face an uncertain journey through winter conditions with inadequate clothing and no food. Those staying behind might be killed before the Soviets arrive, or might find liberation if they can hold on. What do we do? You ask Lena desperately, clutching Sarah's hand so tightly your knuckles are white. Lena's eyes scan the scene rapidly, calculating. The march, she says finally. The Germans won't leave anyone alive here if they can help it. Our best chance is to join the march and try to escape along the way. Before you can respond, guards begin moving through your section, forcing everyone into a column. Choice is removed. You're going on the march whether you want to or not. What comes next will later be known as the death marches, forced evacuations of prisoners from camps near the front lines as the German army retreated. But in this moment, all you know is the nightmare unfolding around you. Your column is driven out through the camp gates. The infamous Arbeit macht frei sign looking down on you one last time. The irony is bitter. After all this time, you're leaving Auschwitz. But not in the way anyone hoped. The march begins at a brutal pace. SS guards with rifles and dogs flank the column, shooting anyone who falls behind or tries to escape. The snow is deep, the temperature well below freezing. Your wooden clogs slip and slide with each step. Sarah stumbles beside you, her small body struggling to keep up. One foot in front of the other, you encourage her, supporting her with an arm around her shoulders. Just keep moving. You've been walking perhaps an hour when Sarah's legs give out. She collapses into the snow, her face alarmingly pale. Get up, you urge frantically, trying to pull her to her feet. Sarah, please, you have to get up. But her strength is gone. Months of starvation and cold have taken their toll. Her eyes meet yours, apology and acceptance mingling in their depths. I can't, Hannah, she whispers. I'm sorry. Terror floods through you. The column is moving on. A guard is approaching from the rear, rifle raised to deal with stragglers. In seconds, Sarah will be shot where she lies. Without hesitation, you crouch and heave her onto your back. Your own body is wasted from months of starvation, but desperation gives you strength. You stagger forward, rejoining the column with Sarah's slight weight draped over your shoulders. I can carry you, you gasp, though your legs already tremble with the effort. Just hold on. Lena appears at your side, wordlessly taking some of Sarah's weight. Together, you manage to keep moving, even as your muscles scream in protest. The good news is that you're still together, still fighting. The bad news is that the death march has only just begun, and the odds of surviving it are vanishingly small. The first day of marching continues until nightfall, covering perhaps 20 kilometers. There are no breaks, no food, no water, except for snow scooped up in passing. When darkness falls, the column is herded into an abandoned farm building. A barn that once housed animals but will now shelter hundreds of prisoners. The space is crowded, barely warmer than outside. People collapse where they stand, too exhausted to seek better positions. You guide Sarah to a corner where at least 2 walls provide some protection from drafts. Lena follows, forming a barrier with her body on the third side. The 3 of you huddle together for warmth, sharing what little body heat remains in your emaciated frames. Thank you, you whisper to Lena in the darkness. I couldn't have carried her alone. We promised to stay together, Lena replies simply. All of us. Sarah has barely spoken since her collapse, conserving every ounce of energy. She lies between you and Lena now, her breathing shallow but steady. You stroke her shorn head gently, marveling that despite everything, you found each other again in this hell. Rest, you tell her. Tomorrow will be better. It's a lie, and you both know it, but sometimes lies are all you have to keep going. Dawn comes too soon. The guards rouse everyone with shouts and rifle butts, forcing aching bodies back into formation. There is no food, not even the usual thin slice of bread, just the order to march. I can walk today, Sarah insists, though she can barely stand. You can't carry me again. Let's just start moving, you say, avoiding the argument. We'll figure it out step by step. The second day is worse than the first. The temperature drops further. A bitter wind cuts through your thin clothing. Snow begins to fall, reducing visibility and making the already treacherous footing more dangerous. People begin to fall almost immediately. Some slip on the icy ground and cannot rise. Others simply collapse from exhaustion and hunger. The sharp crack of rifles follows each fall, punctuating the trudging rhythm of the march with death. Sarah manages to walk for perhaps an hour before her strength fails again. This time, Lena takes the first turn, carrying her, while you break the path ahead through deepening snow. You trade off this way throughout the morning, neither of you strong enough to carry her for long, but together making it possible. By afternoon, however, even this system begins to fail. Your muscles seize with cold and fatigue. Hunger makes your head spin. Each step requires conscious effort, a battle against the body's urgent desire to simply stop, to lie down in the snow, to let the cold take you into its final, peaceful embrace. We can't keep going like this, Lena says, her voice hoarse from the cold. We need a different plan. The column is passing through a small forest. The trees provide some shelter from the wind, but also from the guards' vigilant eyes. The snow and fading light further reduce visibility. If we could slip away, Lena continues, lowering her voice further, move into the trees, hide until the column passes. It's dangerous, perhaps suicidal, but continuing the march might be a slower death sentence. You look down at Sarah, at her blue-tinged lips and half-closed eyes, and know she cannot survive another day of this. Let's do it, you decide. Next curve in the road where the trees are thickest. You grip Sarah's cold hand. We're going to hide in the forest, you explain. When I squeeze your hand, we'll move to the right, into the trees. You have to be absolutely silent, no matter what. Understand? Sarah nods weakly, her eyes focusing with effort. The opportunity comes as the road curves around a dense stand of pine trees. The guards are momentarily distracted by a commotion at the front of the column. You squeeze Sarah's hand and step sideways, pulling her with you. Lena follows closely. One step off the road, 2, 3. The pines envelop you, their branches breaking the sight lines back to the column. Still, you keep moving, deeper into the forest, your hearts pounding with fear of discovery and desperate hope. A shot rings out behind you. Has someone seen you? You freeze, clutching Sarah to your side, but the column continues moving. The shot was for someone else, another poor soul who couldn't keep up. You wait, hardly daring to breathe, until the sounds of the marching column grow distant. Only then do you allow yourselves to sink down into the snow, sheltered by the broad trunk of a pine tree. We did it, Lena whispers, her voice caught between disbelief and exhaustion. But the victory is small and perhaps temporary. You've escaped the march, but now face new dangers. Exposure, starvation, and the wilderness of a Polish winter. You have no food, no proper clothing, no shelter, and Sarah is growing weaker by the minute. We need to find help, you say, trying to think clearly despite your fatigue. A farm, a village, somewhere with people who might hide us. Which direction? Lena asks practically. We don't even know where we are. It's a good question. The march was heading west, away from the approaching Soviet army. Logic suggests you should go east if you want to find the Russians, who might be more sympathetic to escaped prisoners than Polish civilians who fear German reprisals for helping Jews. East, you decide. But first, we need to get farther from the road. You help Sarah to her feet, supporting her between you and Lena. The going is slow, each step an ordeal in the deep snow, but the forest offers some protection from the wind, and the physical activity generates a small amount of warmth. As darkness falls completely, you find a small hollow beneath the spreading branches of a massive pine. The ground there is relatively clear of snow, cushioned instead with fallen needles. It's the closest thing to shelter you're likely to find. We'll rest here tonight, you say, helping Sarah to sit with her back against the trunk. In the morning, we'll look for help. You and Lena gather more pine branches, creating a crude windbreak and a layered bed of needles that offers marginally better insulation from the frozen ground. You huddle together in this makeshift nest, arms around each other, sharing what little warmth your bodies can generate. Tell me about home again, Sarah murmurs, her head resting on your shoulder. Tell me about summer. So you whisper stories of warm days by the river, of cherry trees in bloom, of Mama's flower boxes on the windowsill. You describe the way sunlight used to filter through the leaves of the big elm tree outside your bedroom, creating patterns on the floor. You recall the taste of fresh bread from the bakery below your apartment, still warm from the oven. These memories of warmth and comfort are a lifeline in the frigid darkness, a reminder that such things once existed and might exist again. You talk until your voice grows hoarse, until Sarah's breathing deepens into the rhythm of sleep, until even Lena's vigilant eyes close with exhaustion. But you remain awake, fighting the dangerous pull of sleep that, in such cold, might be permanent. You rub Sarah's hands and feet periodically, making sure circulation continues. You listen to the night sounds of the forest, alert for any sign of danger or opportunity. And in these quiet hours, for the first time in months, perhaps years, you allow yourself to truly think about the future. If you survive this night and the next, and somehow find help, what then? Where will you go? What will you do? Is there anything left of your old life to return to? The questions are overwhelming, but asking them feels like a radical act of hope. To consider a future at all means believing one exists. Dawn brings a weak grey light filtering through the pine branches. Sarah stirs against your shoulder, her face alarmingly pale, lips tinged with blue despite your efforts to keep her warm. I had a dream about Mama, she tells you, her voice faint. She was playing the piano, that Chopin piece she loved. She looked so happy. The simplicity of her words, the peaceful acceptance in her voice, frightens you more than any complaint could have. She's slipping away. We need to move, you say, with forced energy. Get our blood flowing. We're going to find help today. Lena is already on her feet, stamping and swinging her arms to generate warmth. Her practical nature has been another kind of lifeline these past months. I climbed a tree at first light, she reports. I saw smoke from chimneys to the east, maybe 3 kilometers. That means houses, people. 3 kilometers, you repeat, trying to imagine if Sarah can make such a journey in her condition. There's no choice but to try. Getting Sarah onto her feet is a struggle. Her body is stiff with cold, her strength nearly gone. Once upright, she sways dangerously, unable to stand without support. I'll go ahead, Lena suggests, seeing the situation. Find the houses, see if there's someone who might help. You stay here with Sarah, where there's at least some shelter. The idea of separating fills you with dread, but the logic is sound. Sarah cannot travel quickly and time is running out. Be careful, you tell Lena, embracing her quickly. If no one will help, come back. We'll find another way. After Lena leaves, you focus entirely on Sarah, helping her move around the small clearing to keep blood flowing, telling her stories to keep her mind active, rubbing her hands and feet constantly. But despite your efforts, she grows weaker, her responses slower, her eyes unfocused. Stay with me, Sarah, you plead, fear making your voice sharp. Just a little longer. Help is coming. I'm trying, she whispers. I'm so tired, Hannah. Hours pass with excruciating slowness. The weak winter sun reaches its zenith and begins to descend. There's no sign of Lena. Doubt and fear grow with each passing minute. Was she captured? Did she abandon you? Is she lying somewhere in the snow, unable to return? Sarah drifts in and out of consciousness now, a dangerous sign. You've seen this before in the camp, the peaceful surrender that precedes death. Sarah, listen to me, you say urgently, shaking her gently. Remember what we promised each other? We stay together, always. You have to stay with me. Her eyes flutter open, finding yours with effort. I'm trying, she repeats, the words barely audible. Just when despair threatens to overwhelm you, there's a sound of movement in the trees. You tense, ready to fight or flee, pulling Sarah protectively behind you. But it's Lena who emerges from the pines, and she's not alone. With her is an elderly man in a heavy wool coat and fur hat, leading a small horse-drawn sledge. Hannah, Lena calls, her face alight with triumph. This is Mr. Kowalski. He's going to help us. The old man approaches cautiously, his weathered face showing a mix of fear and compassion as he takes in your emaciated forms and prisoner clothing. My wife and I live alone, he says in Polish. Our sons were killed fighting the Germans. We can hide you in our root cellar until the Russians come. They are very close now. You're too overcome to speak, tears freezing on your cheeks. Sarah stirs behind you, her eyes widening at the sight of the sledge and the promise of warmth it represents. Thank you, you finally manage. Thank you. Mr. Kowalski helps you lift Sarah onto the sledge, covering her with thick fur robes. You and Lena climb on as well, huddling under the warm covers. As the horse begins moving through the snow, pulling you towards safety, Sarah's cold hand finds yours. We're going to make it, she whispers. Together. For the first time in years, you allow yourself to fully believe it might be true. The good news is that you've escaped the death march and found help that might see you through these final desperate days of war. The bad news is that Sarah's condition is critical and the journey to true freedom has only just begun. Mr. Kowalski's home is a small, sturdy farmhouse on the outskirts of a village whose name you don't catch. Smoke rises from the chimney, promising warmth. Real warmth, something you've almost forgotten after months in the freezing barracks of Auschwitz and the bitter cold of the death march. When the sledge stops at the door, an elderly woman emerges, her grey hair peeking out from beneath a woolen headscarf. She gasps at the sight of you, 3 skeletal figures in thin striped uniforms, but recovers quickly and beckons you inside with urgency. Quickly, quickly, she whispers, before anyone sees. The heat of the house hits you like a physical force as you cross the threshold. After so long in the cold, it feels almost painful on your frozen skin. Sarah sways beside you, barely conscious, supported between you and Lena. My God, they're children, Mrs. Kowalski murmurs, her eyes filling with tears as she gets a proper look at you. Josef, they're just children. From the camp, her husband explains grimly. Escaped from the march, the little one needs help right away. Mrs. Kowalski springs into action with the practical efficiency of a woman who has managed a farm for decades. She clears the small table, spreads it with clean cloths, and directs you to lay Sarah down. First, we warm her, very slowly, she explains, bringing blankets that have been warming by the stove. Too much heat too quickly is dangerous for someone this cold. You watch anxiously as she tends to Sarah, gently wrapping her in layers, rubbing her limbs with careful, experienced hands. Sarah's eyes flutter open at the touch, confusion giving way to wonder at the unfamiliar comfort. Where are we? She whispers. Somewhere safe, you assure her, holding her thin hand. These people are helping us. Mr. Kowalski appears with 3 steaming mugs. Broth, he says, offering them to you and Lena. Just a little at first, your stomachs won't be used to real food. The broth is simple, just water, salt, and perhaps a few vegetables, but it tastes like the finest meal you've ever had. You have to force yourself to sip slowly, knowing from tragic experiences in the camp that eating too much too quickly after starvation can be fatal. We can't stay in the house, Mr. Kowalski tells you once Sarah has been stabilized and moved to a pallet near the stove. It's too dangerous. The Germans still control this area, though they're retreating. If they conduct a search and find you, he doesn't need to finish the sentence. You know exactly what would happen. Death for you three, and likely for the Kowalskis as well. Helping Jews is punishable by execution. We have a root cellar, Mrs. Kowalski explains, under the barn. It's where we store vegetables for winter. It's dry and can be heated a little with a small stove. You'll be safe there until the Russians come. How long? Lena asks. Always practical. Days, perhaps a week, Mr. Kowalski replies. The gunfire is closer each day. That night, once Sarah is stable enough to be moved, Mr. Kowalski leads you to the barn and shows you the hidden entrance to the root cellar, a trapdoor concealed under straw and old tools. The cellar itself is surprisingly spacious, a room dug into the earth with shelves of preserved food lining the walls. A small iron stove provides both heat and a means to cook. There are pallets prepared with straw mattresses and woolen blankets. It's not much, Mrs. Kowalski apologizes as she brings down extra clothing, simple peasant garments that will replace your prisoner uniforms. But you'll be warm and fed. To you, after Auschwitz, it seems like unimaginable luxury. Why are you helping us? Lena asks the question that's been on your mind as well. You're risking your lives. Mrs. Kowalski's weathered face softens. We had 3 sons, she says simply, all taken by this war. We couldn't save them, but perhaps God has given us the chance to save you instead. That first night in the cellar, you sleep deeply for the first time in years, free from the fear that dominated your existence in the camp. Sarah's condition improves remarkably with warmth, rest, and small amounts of nourishing food. Her cheeks gain the faintest hint of colour, and she begins to speak more, to look around with interest rather than exhaustion. The days that follow establish a new routine. You stay hidden in the cellar during daylight hours, emerging only at night when it's safe to breathe fresh air and stretch your limbs in the barn. Mrs. Kowalski brings food twice daily: thin porridge, vegetable soup, occasionally a precious egg or bit of milk. She also brings news gleaned from the village and the radio they keep hidden in their home. The Germans are in full retreat, she reports one evening in late January. The roads are clogged with their vehicles and soldiers. They look defeated already. The sounds of war grow closer. Artillery, gunfire, the rumble of tanks. Sometimes the ground above you trembles with distant explosions. You imagine the Soviet army advancing, pushing the Germans back mile by mile. The good news is that liberation seems close at hand. The bad news is that warfare is unpredictable, and you're caught in the middle of a bitter conflict between 2 powerful armies. One morning, the roar of battle seems especially close. Mr. Kowalski hurries down to the cellar, his face grave. Fighting in the village, he explains tersely. Germans have set up a defensive position. Russians attacking. Stay here absolutely silent no matter what you hear. He leaves you with extra water and food, securing the trapdoor carefully behind him, and then begins the waiting. Perhaps the most terrifying hours since your escape from the march. The sounds above are cacophonous. Artillery shells, machine gun fire, the screams of wounded men, vehicles roaring past. Dust filters down from the ceiling of your shelter as explosions shake the ground. Sarah clings to you, trembling, her face buried against your shoulder. Lena sits alert, a makeshift weapon in hand, a length of pipe she found in the cellar, ready to defend you if necessary. Hours pass this way, the battle raging overhead. You whisper stories to Sarah, trying to distract her from the terror, though your own heart races with each nearby explosion. You wonder about the Kowalskis. Are they safe in their home? Have they been caught in the crossfire? Or worse, have German soldiers discovered them and punished them for hiding Jews? Darkness falls, but the fighting continues. You've lost track of time when suddenly a new sound cuts through the din, the trapdoor being wrenched open. Light floods in, the beam of a flashlight sweeping the cellar. You huddle back against the far wall, Sarah behind you, Lena beside you with her pipe raised. A figure appears in the opening, silhouetted against the light. He calls out something in a language you don't understand. Not German or Polish. Russian, Lena whispers. That's Russian. The soldier descends the ladder, flashlight illuminating his face, young, bearded, with wary eyes that widen in shock as he takes in the sight of you three. He calls out again, and more soldiers appear at the opening. Children, he says in heavily accented Polish. You are children. We escaped from Auschwitz, Lena explains, lowering her makeshift weapon. The death march. This Polish family hid us. The Russian soldier's face darkens at the word Auschwitz. He says something to his comrades and there's a rapid exchange. Then he turns back to you, making an effort to soften his expression. War is over for you, he says simply. You are safe now. Those words, you are safe now, they should bring overwhelming relief. Instead, they feel strange, almost incomprehensible. What does safety even mean after years of danger? How do you begin to trust that the nightmare is truly ending? The Russians help you out of the cellar and into the barn, which shows signs of the battle. Parts of the roof blown away, walls splintered by gunfire. Outside, the village is in ruins. Buildings burn, casting an eerie light over the snowy landscape. Bodies lie in the street, German soldiers mostly, but some civilians as well. Your heart clenches with fear for the Kowalskis. You scan the chaos, looking for any sign of them, and then, emerging from the shadows of their damaged home, you see Mrs. Kowalski supporting her husband, who limps heavily, blood staining his right leg. You're alive, she cries when she sees you. Thank God, you're alive. There are tears and embraces and explanations. A shell hit near their house, sending shrapnel into Mr. Kowalski's leg. The wound is painful, but not life-threatening. The Russians have a field medic who can treat him. What happens now? You ask the Russian officer who seems to be in charge, a stern-faced man who introduces himself as Captain Petrov. Now, you come with us, he replies. We take you to collection point for survivors. From there, organizations will help you find family. Find new home. We stay together, you insist, tightening your grip on Sarah's hand. My sister and I stay together. Captain Petrov's stern expression softens slightly. Of course, we do not separate families. Saying goodbye to the Kowalskis is harder than you expected. These strangers who risked everything to save you have become, in just a few short days, a tenuous connection to normal human kindness, a reminder that goodness still exists in the world. We will never forget what you did for us, you tell them, embracing Mrs. Kowalski, who presses small bundles of food into your hands despite her own limited supplies. Live well, she replies, tears in her eyes. That is all the thanks we need. The Russians have trucks, military vehicles heading back toward their supply lines. You, Sarah, and Lena are helped aboard one of these, along with a few other civilians being evacuated from the battle zone. The truck is cold and jolts painfully over damaged roads, but compared to cattle cars and death marches, it feels almost comfortable. Sarah sits pressed against your side, her eyes wide as she watches the unfamiliar landscape roll by. Are we really free? She asks in a small voice. Yes, you tell her, though the word feels strange on your tongue. We're really free. The collection point turns out to be a former school in a town some 50 kilometers east. It's been converted into a processing center for displaced persons, refugees, former prisoners, forced laborers freed by the Soviet advance. The building is crowded, chaotic, but warm, and supplied with food and basic medical care. You, Sarah, and Lena are registered, examined by doctors, given clean clothing, and assigned space on the gymnasium floor, where dozens of other survivors are already camped on blankets and thin mattresses. Tomorrow, representatives from Jewish organizations will come, explains a harried Soviet administrator. They are establishing lists of survivors, helping people find family, arranging transportation to displaced persons camps where you can stay until permanent homes are found. That night, lying on your allocated blankets in the crowded gymnasium, listening to the breathing, crying, and occasional nightmares of dozens of other survivors, a new reality begins to sink in. You've survived. Against impossible odds, you and Sarah have lived to see the end of the nightmare. But what comes next? Do you think Mama and Papa could be alive? Sarah whispers in the darkness. Or David. Maybe they escaped too. You want to nurture this hope, but you also remember the selections at Auschwitz, the smoke from the crematoria, the thousands who never returned from the gas chambers. We'll look for them, you promise, unwilling to destroy her fragile hope, yet unable to fully embrace it yourself. We'll put our names on all the lists, and we'll look everywhere. The representatives from the Jewish organizations arrive the next day, tired men and women who have been following the Soviet advance, cataloguing survivors and trying to reunite families. They set up tables in the school's former cafeteria, creating an improvised office where they interview each survivor. When your turn comes, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a methodical manner takes down your information. Names, ages, home address in Krakow, last known whereabouts of your parents and brother, any other family who might have survived. We'll add you to the central registry, she explains. If your family members are alive and registered elsewhere, we can match you. Meanwhile, there's a displaced persons camp being established near Łódź for Jewish survivors. You'll be transported there within the week. Will we stay together? You ask, gripping Sarah's hand. Of course, the woman assures you. We never separate siblings, especially children. Lena is interviewed at another table. When she rejoins you, her face is thoughtful. They've offered me a choice, she explains. I can go to the DP camp with you, or I can join a group heading back toward Warsaw. They've had word that some of my extended family might have survived there. Your heart sinks. The thought of separating from Lena, who has become like a sister through your shared ordeal, is painful, but you understand the pull of family, real family. If there's any chance they've survived, you should go, you tell her, though the words stick in your throat. If there's any chance your family is alive. You're my family too, Lena says fiercely, embracing you and Sarah. But I need to know. I promise I'll find you again. Wherever you end up, we'll write through the organizations. We'll stay connected. The parting, when it comes 3 days later, is tearful, but hopeful. Lena boards a truck bound for Warsaw while you and Sarah join a larger convoy heading toward Łódź. As the trucks pull away in opposite directions, you hold up Sarah so she can wave until Lena's vehicle disappears from sight. Will we really see her again? Sarah asks. Yes, you answer, with more conviction than you feel. In a world turned upside down, with millions displaced and infrastructure destroyed, finding each other again will be challenging. But you've both survived Auschwitz. Perhaps smaller miracles are still possible. The displaced persons camp near Łódź becomes your home for the next 18 months. It's a strange limbo existence, no longer prisoners but not yet free to determine your own futures. The camp is run jointly by the Soviet authorities and international relief organizations. Living conditions are basic but humane. Communal barracks, simple meals, makeshift schools for children, medical care for the many survivors still recovering from their ordeal. Sarah adapts with the resilience of youth. She attends the camp school, makes friends with other children, and gradually begins to look less like a haunted miniature adult and more like the child she still is. Her nightmares, frequent at first, slowly become less common. Her body recovers more quickly than her mind. With regular meals, she regains weight and strength, though she remains small for her age, the years of malnutrition having taken a permanent toll on her growth. For you, recovery is more complicated. At 16, you're caught between childhood and adulthood, with responsibilities beyond your years. You're now Sarah's only parent as well as her sister. You work in the camp kitchen, attend classes to continue your interrupted education, and spend every free moment checking the lists of survivors that are posted and updated regularly. Each time new names appear, you scan them with desperate hope, looking for anyone from your family, anyone from your old neighborhood in Krakow. Occasionally, you find someone you recognize, a distant cousin, a former neighbor, a schoolmate, but never the names you most long to see: Mama, Papa, David. Letters arrive from Lena after about 3 months. She's found an aunt and uncle alive in Warsaw, the only survivors from her extended family. They're rebuilding a life there, though the city remains in ruins. She asks about you and Sarah, promises to visit when travel becomes easier, sends small gifts when she can. A hair ribbon for Sarah, a book of Polish poetry for you. As 1945 turns to 1946, the temporary nature of the DP camp becomes increasingly clear. This is not a place to build a permanent life. Discussions about the future dominate conversations among the adult survivors. Some talk of Palestine, of helping to build a Jewish homeland where such persecution can never happen again. Others speak of America, Canada, Australia, distant countries that represent new beginnings, places untouched by the horrors of Europe. You listen to these conversations, weighing options for yourself and Sarah. Palestine appeals to something deep in you, the idea of a place where being Jewish is not a death sentence, where you can live openly without fear. But America offers different opportunities, especially for Sarah's education. In the end, the decision is made for you. The Jewish Agency, working to bring survivors to Palestine, has a program specifically for orphaned children. You and Sarah qualify. In late 1946, you join a group of about 50 children and young people traveling south through Europe, eventually reaching a port in Italy where a ship waits to take you across the Mediterranean. The journey is long and difficult. The ship is overcrowded, conditions below deck reminiscent enough of cattle cars to trigger panic attacks in some of the survivors. But there's also a sense of purpose, of movement towards something rather than away from danger, that makes it bearable. When you finally glimpse the coastline of Palestine, Sarah standing beside you at the ship's rail, her hair grown out now into dark curls like Mama's, blowing in the sea breeze, something shifts inside you, not healing exactly. You're not sure the wounds of the past years will ever fully heal, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter. The good news is that you've survived the darkest chapter of human history, that you and Sarah have each other, that a future stretches before you with possibilities you once thought lost forever. The bad news is that the journey of recovery is just beginning, and the shadows of the past will never completely disappear. Life in Palestine, which will become Israel in 1948, is challenging in different ways. You live first in a youth village with other orphaned children, later moving to a kibbutz where you help farm the land while Sarah continues her education. You learn Hebrew, adapt to the climate, and gradually build a new identity as Israelis rather than Polish refugees. Through it all, you never stop searching. You register with every possible organization tracking Holocaust survivors. You scan lists, send letters, follow up on rumors of people from Krakow who might have been seen alive. Years pass and hope fades, but never quite disappears entirely. Sarah blossoms in your new homeland. She excels in school, shows a talent for languages, makes friends. The haunted look leaves her eyes, though occasionally, usually at night, you glimpse the shadows of memories that will never fully fade. She rarely speaks of Auschwitz now, or of the Polish family who took her in, or of the Death March. It's as if she's placed those memories in a locked box, separate from her new life. You're less successful at compartmentalizing. Nightmares still wake you regularly. Certain sounds, dogs barking, boots on pavement, German voices can send you into momentary panic. You find it difficult to form close relationships, to trust that people you love won't suddenly disappear. But you function, you work, you care for Sarah, you move forward one day at a time, just as Esther taught you in the barracks of Auschwitz. In 1950, 5 years after liberation, a letter arrives from the International Red Cross. A David Goldstein, age 26, originally from Krakow, is searching for family members. He believes his younger sisters might have survived the war. The name is common. There must be many David Goldsteins from Poland. The ages match, but it could be coincidence. You've had false hopes before, leads that led nowhere. Still, you respond immediately, providing details that only your brother would know. The name of your childhood dog, The title of the book Papa gave you for your 10th birthday. The song Mama used to sing while cooking. 2 weeks later, another letter arrives. It's really me, it begins. I can't believe you're alive. Both of you. A miracle. David has been in America since 1947. He survived Auschwitz through a combination of his medical knowledge, the Germans put him to work in the camp hospital, and sheer determination. He was transferred to another camp in late 1944, eventually liberated by American forces. He's been searching for you and Sarah ever since, just as you've been searching for him. The reunion, when it finally happens months later in New York, where you and Sarah travel on visas David helps arrange, is both joyful and painful. Your brother is physically transformed, no longer the lanky student you remember, but a gaunt man with prematurely grey hair and eyes that have seen too much. Yet his smile is the same, and when he embraces you both, sobbing without shame, something long broken inside you begins to mend. Mama and Papa, you ask, though you already know the answer from his letters. David shakes his head. They didn't survive the first selection at Auschwitz. I saw them directed to the left, the side for the gas chambers. It was quick, Hannah. They didn't suffer long. There's cold comfort in that knowledge, that your parents' suffering was brief compared to what you endured. You mourn them properly now, saying Kaddish with David, lighting memorial candles, allowing grief its full expression after years of necessary numbness. Life continues to unfold. You split your time between Israel and America, creating a bridge between the two parts of your surviving family. Sarah completes her education, eventually becoming a teacher, her warm manner and patience with children a gift to the many students who pass through her classroom. David practices medicine, specializing in treating survivors of trauma, his own experiences informing his gentle approach to healing others. And you find your way more slowly, experimenting with different paths before discovering a talent for writing. Your first book, published in 1962, tells the story of two sisters surviving Auschwitz. Though fictionalized, it draws heavily on your experiences, bearing witness to what happened while honoring those who didn't survive to tell their own stories. Time passes, as it always does. The world begins to rebuild, to move forward, sometimes seeming too eager to forget the horrors of the Holocaust. But you remember. You testify at war crimes trials. You speak at schools and universities. You ensure that history cannot be erased or denied. When Sarah's first child is born in 1965, she names her daughter Esther after the woman who helped you survive in the early days at Auschwitz. When her son follows 3 years later, he's named Josef, honoring the Polish farmer who risked his life to hide you. Your family tree, nearly destroyed, puts forth new branches. And now, decades later, as you sit with Sarah on her porch in Jerusalem, watching her grandchildren play in the garden below, you reflect on the long journey from that morning in Krakow when you woke to the sound of air raid sirens. So much lost, so much endured, and yet here you are, still together, still bearing witness, still finding joy despite everything. Do you think they know? Sarah asks softly, following your gaze to the children. Can they possibly understand what it means that they exist at all? They will, you answer. Not everything. They can't carry the full weight of our memories, but enough to ensure it's never forgotten, never repeated. One of the children looks up, waves excitedly. Sarah waves back, her face illuminated with a smile that holds no shadows, at least in this moment. This, you think, is the real victory. Not just survival, but this. The ability to love without reservation, to find joy without guilt, to build a future while honoring the past, to have endured the worst of humanity and still believe in the possibility of the best. The past cannot be changed. The 6 million cannot be brought back. The years of childhood lost to fear and hunger and brutality cannot be restored. But this moment, this simple, precious moment of peace and connection, this is why you survived. To bear witness, yes, but also to live. Truly live. In defiance of those who tried to exterminate not just your people, but the very concept of human dignity. We made it, little bird, you whisper, using the old nickname as you reach for Sarah's hand. Together, she replies, completing what has become, over the years, a ritual affirmation between you, always together. And in that word, together, lies the essence of how you survived when so many didn't. Not strength or luck alone, but connection. To each other, to those who helped along the way, to memory itself, and to the future represented by the children playing below, untouched by the horrors you endured, but forever shaped by your determination that such things must never happen again.